some of the early Sierra Leoneans, like Wallace Johnson, for instance. Did you ever have contact with?
I had contact with him, but he was a little more radical than Samilton and I liked.
Yeah.
Because again, he had his contacts with Ghana and always with the Gold Coast in those days. And their contacts were always suspected. They were supported by the Communist Party in England for some reason or other. So that he was not, but as a person, he was a wonderfully nice person. And then what his other people, but Bankole Bright, who was the Creole leader, we did not like at all, because he looked down on Samilton Maguire, that made the doctor, you see, so we did not like him. And this is where, that's why Madame Koblo and her husband come into the picture. Before I went even to Nigeria, but while I was already starting the SOS, by Koblo, who became the husband of Ella Koblo, he would come from Freetown at the meeting of Legislative Council to me, because we were related in some way, coming from the same part of the country. And he said, you help me a little bit. Them Creole, they are bored me too much. Bankole Bright and Bioku Belton. He said, write one speech for me. So since they started calling him those backward people over there, he said, let's put them in their place. So I wrote a speech to him in which he said, you people must remember that after all, you are guests in this country. We took you when you came from slavery. And they did not like that. You see, that we put the word slavery there. They said, how many men they call me slave? So that was my connection with them. So when Bekoblo therefore was with them from the beginning, from the Legislative Council until we became the Parliament, and he was there, and that connection with him. So when then he married Ella Koblo's father, I mean, when he got married to Gulama, who was Ella Koblo's father, and Gulama was one of our supporters when we used to go to the Protected Assembly. And when we started the thing on the scenes behind. Let me tell you what happened on that behind the scenes business. The British they called him High Commissioner at that time.
Right.
His mission at the meeting of the Protected Assembly, which Sumner and Anthony and I attended, where we formed SOS, his mission was to get the chiefs up country to accept a land tenure bill which the British wanted passed, which they knew that would not be acceptable normally from the British, because land tenure system and which the Creoles would like very much, because the Creoles would like to go up country and buy land, which they cannot do now. So his mission was to get the chiefs to accept this idea that land tenure system of Great Britain would be spread throughout the whole protectorate. As soon as we got word of this, we called the chiefs together and said, we've heard that something they want you to pass at the next meeting. Please don't agree. And the reason for this is we don't have land tenure the way the Creoles and the British have it up country. Up country, you know, the land belongs to the people, but in the name of the chief. If you come and want land, you go and beg for it from the chief. He would say, yes, here's this place. You can build a house there, you can farm, etc. But it's not yours. You cannot sell it to somebody else. When you go away, it belongs to Bakaron. And that's the system we want to keep. And the chief said, yes, we understand that. So they went the next morning, and the High Commissioner, I forget his name now, you can find it out in your record, he brought it, this is something His Majesty's government, Her Majesty's government would like us very much to. It was still, I think it was the present Queen would like you to pass it. The chief said, yes, we've heard you, but we don't think we understand quite what you mean, so I don't think we're ready to pass this bill. He went and reported to the governor. Something happened of that thing that we don't understand. The chiefs did not agree to what we brought. We thought they were spending that night dancing, etc. Something must have happened. Then they found out that it was me who had got the chiefs not to agree to his proposal. And from that time, I was again in the bad books of the British. As if you trust Karefa-Smart too much, he's going to cause trouble. So that was. But the Creoles as a whole, I mean, for instance, Bioku Bet, who was only partly aligned with Bankole Bright, he was partly a member of our family because his wife was an aunt, an extended family aunt of ours through my mother. And so when Rena and I went to their place was our place. When he went to to attend the coronation, not the coronation, or the wedding. It must have been the coronation. He invited Rina and I to come and stay with our aunt, in his house, because he and our aunt were in London attending. So we were that close. Then that brings us again now to the question which we started answering, did not answer. Dr. Eastman, you see, when I came back now as a doctor, and I was in government, and I was Minister of Lands, Mines and Labour, because it was lands and, in a way, Bonds Island can be regarded as government land in that way. He and I got the idea of making sure that we went and make sure that we know Bonds Island. We would go, I would say every 2 months or so, we would go by boat to Bonds Island to get to know it properly. And then we got the Bonds Island to be included among the Monuments and Relics Commission, which was part of the museum that you had there, you see. So he and I got really very close together. And if he was in England and I happened to be in England, I would visit with him, and he remembered what he'd done for my sister. I mean, although she died, but he was the one who took care of him. And his home again was the second home to us and to Rina both. And therefore Mrs. Kesley Hayford, who was the sister of his mother, that connection, we also had that connection. So our Creole bond with them was good. But again, if you look at it, that they weren't Creoles in the sense that they came out of the people who were brought back from
Nova Scotia.
They come actually, they were partly Ghana people.
Yes.
The Eastman partly Ghana, and Dr. Eastman was wise enough that part of his people were Soso people also, which was Sierra Leone. So that Creole bond was not broken by our friendship with them, but they become our friends, and our Creole acquaintances became larger and larger, like Simeon George Coker, the dentist, etc.
Let me just check this. Okay.
And of course we had Frobe College friends who were Creoles. Did you know the story that between Sir Milton and I, there were no other protected people ever at Frobe College?
No.
He was the first and only protected person admitted to Frobe College and got a degree. And between him and me, which was, I mean, he was there when I was born, so to speak, 1915, and I, nobody else. So that long link, and the Creoles had kept that as their own. We won't let these bush people come and corrupt us. But when I went there and made friends with the Creole people like Noah and all of them.
But there were lots of Nigerians at Fort Bay then.
Oh, the Nigeria, because of Bishop Crowther, the first in fact, he was one of the first. He was never a student at Frobe College. He was one of the people on the ship, which was on the way to slavery here, and the British liberated them and brought them to Sierra Leone. It was from Sierra Leone that he went as a missionary to Nigeria, to his own people, and started the Anglican Church in Nigeria. His connection with Sierra Leone, I do not have any recollection that he was a student of Frobe College. But then after, between that, Nigerians were there. When I was in Frobe College, half of the students there were Nigerians, not Sierra Leoneans.
Now you had, in Sir Milton's cabinet, you had some Creoles.
Oh yes, Ned John, fellow from Waterloo. Sir Milton, that's what I was telling you, did not support any of this tribal business division. He was cautious with the Creole, that's why he brought those he could trust, young people like Ned John, who was Minister of Education, and the other fellow, who's one of his children was at the UN.
You had the
King, R.G.O. King.
Yeah, R.G.O. King and the Nelson Williams.
Nelson Williams, the young, they came later.
And,
there were several of them.
Yeah.
Oh yes, because of the natural, they had to be elected. The colony people had constituencies. York, colony people. You can find their names. You have all of their names.
I'm going to change the tape.
Okay.
Make sure that we don't run out again. Let's see. Stop. All right. Just make sure it's recording. I'll play it back.
Is it